Hey everybody, let's take a look at how we can insert our images into our slide deck and how to manage some of those photos. So let's go ahead. I'm going to first try to do this insert image from the web. Okay. Now what that's going to do is when I do that, Google's going to return me a set of pictures that it says is eligible to be used in these slide decks. Now we'll talk more about like what that means for us in an educational setting. It doesn't mean we can do anything anyway, anyhow with our pictures, but it does mean that we probably are okay using them. We're still going to credit the picture though. We're going to let people know where we got this picture. So I typed in my search box here what I'm looking for. Obviously, I'm looking for a picture of Taylor Swift. And let's say that you want this Speak Now picture, okay? Let's say that you want to use this picture. So for the purposes of this, I'm just going to right-click, and I'm just going to paste it right here. I'm going to drop it here on my page, right? So there we go, right? We can do that. I can also, too, when I do that, I can also hit this insert button, and it will do the same thing, right? Like it'll drop it right on that page for me as well. And now I have two images of it. Here, I can then do some cropping and some resizing, right? I can make this bigger. Like say I want this to look bigger. I want more of that picture, right? Whenever you're resizing pictures, always grab by the corner dots, right? Always grab by those corners. You never want to grab on these middle dots. If you do, you're going to squish her, right? You're only going to change one proportion, one direction. So we definitely want to make sure that we're grabbing on that corner. This is my picture here. Obviously, I can resize this as well. I can make it bigger, smaller, but always grabbing by the corners. Now that I have this picture in here, I'm good to go, right? Kind of. I do need to credit the picture. I do need to let people know where I got this picture from. So I'm going to go back over here to my web search, and I'm going to click on that plus sign again. And you see that I got this link across the top here. That's where this picture is hosted. And we can tell here it's a Flickr picture. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to this website here. And this is Flickr. It could have been any site, right? It just happened to be Flickr. The picture's loading. It's going to be right here. And if I scroll down, I'm going to see a lot of information, right? I'm going to see, first off, I'm going to get who took it. I'm going to see that she's a professional. I've got a lot of information about like some technical information about how the picture was taken, when it was, where it was, things like that, right? So there's a lot of different pieces of information that I get. But for what I'm doing here, I'm going to go grab this web address up here at the top. I'm going to come back to my presentation, and I'm going to paste that web address on here. Okay. Now I'm going to drag it over here to the side for a second. Okay. Now you see I've got this big web address. Okay. So the goal is to obviously credit the photo. We want people to know where we came from, but it doesn't need to be the focus of the page, right? It doesn't need to be the focus of this. So I can make it fairly small, which I just changed this to 10 points, okay? Now, I can put this anywhere next to the picture I want, okay? I always like to put it either along the bottom of it or, along the outside edge, be it the top, the bottom, or out here on this side over here. Which is what I'm going to do with this one. Now, wherever you put it, that's kind of up to you. But the thing I would really suggest is that you want to be kind of consistent. Once you start doing it a certain way, right? Once you start putting it in a certain place, for consistency's sake, let's go ahead and keep doing it in the same place. All right. So at this point, I've really done what I needed to do. I credited where this picture came from. But there's better ways of doing this, right? Like this is the one part. Okay, this is good. There's a better way of doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this text. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to close this. And I've got this little link button. I'm going to insert my link. Now what's going to happen is that changes that into a clickable link. So if you were in a situation where you were giving out copies of your slide deck, or if it was posted somewhere where you could use it, there you would be able to, whoever had it would be able to click on it and go see it, okay? Now, this is better, but that's not the best way, because if I'm the audience and I'm looking at this, I get a sense of, okay, this is where it came from, but do I really know anything about that, right? So I'm going to go back to my Flickr site where I got this picture, and in this case, right up here, I know the photographer. I know who took this picture, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as my link text. So I'm going to go back to my presentation, and I'm going to select this link again, right? Now, over here, do you see where we have this edit link option, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, and this text is what we see. What would the reader or the audience see for that link? So I'm going to type in that name, right? I'm going to type in that woman's name, Eva Rinaldi. She was the one who took the picture. This is where it is, right? Like that sends us to where we're going. I'm going to apply it, and look at that. Now, as an audience, I have more information, right? Like I know who that person is. I know who shot that picture. And if I needed to go verify that or whatever, I could go look it up myself. Okay. So that's a good start, right? Now that's using the insert image, search the web option. I also have where I could upload it from my computer, from my drive, different things that I can do, right? But let's say that we were doing a Google search. Let's say that we're doing a Google search and we're just out there searching for photos, okay? Now, this is a little bit more problematic in that now at this point, I am searching all kinds of pictures and I don't really know what my usage rights are, okay? Again, as an educational setting, we have some different, some different allowances, right? But we do want to get in the habit of doing this the right way. I have some tools that I might be able to use. Under this tools options, I have this option here called usage rights. And this will allow you to pick what type of rights you have. Now, it's going to default to all, which gives you the most pictures. Creative Commons means that these are pictures that the photographer, the artist, or whoever posted that picture is allowing people to use in certain situations. And then these are like the ones that you would have to be paying for. Again, as an educational situation, that's a little bit different than if I was out in public making money or something, right? There's another option too, like all these different, what type of pictures do you want to use? What kind of color do you want it to primarily be? So you have some of those options. But the other option that I really like you to look at is size. So one of the things that we always want to make sure that we are doing is that we're using the best quality picture for what we're trying to do. If I just do a search, it's going to default any size, right? It's going to give me anything that's out there. But typically speaking, I need to make sure that I have the biggest, most the picture with the biggest and the most resolution, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select large. And what that's going to tell Google is that I only want pictures that are big and have lots of pixels to work with, right? So if I click on this picture, for instance, okay, and if I hover over it, notice down here in the right corner, it says how many pixels it is, 1,500 by 1,000. So that's a pretty decent sized photo. This one over here is about the same size. This one here is even bigger, 26 by 1,400, right? So I have a lot of different options. This gives me the ability to really stretch that picture. The more pixels or the more dots I have, the more I could do with it. Just to show you what this might look like, I'm going to pick the smallest picture, which is an icon, right? This is the smallest type of picture that they have. For instance, that last picture was 2,600 by 1,400. By contrast, this is 250 by 250 or 256 by 256. And to show you what that would look like, I'm going to go ahead and copy this picture. I'm going to bring it back to our slide deck that we were using. Okay. And I'm going to paste it right here. So we see how big it is to start with, a lot smaller than the one we had earlier, right? I can drag this dot out. I can grab it. Okay. I can do whatever I want to. I'm going to blow it up real big here for the intents and purposes of what I'm showing you. And then let me just go ahead on the slideshow version of it, right? See how like pixelated and grainy this looks, okay? So pixels are basically squares. They're rows of squares and they're different colors, and that's how the picture's created. I've blown this up too big, right? And so you can kind of see the little blocks and the little squares all over her, right? So that's why we want to make sure that we're using the biggest possible picture, okay? So again, as you are working on your presentation, as you are out there trying to add in your pictures, please make sure you're using the biggest possible picture, and please make sure you're doing the right thing by giving that photographer, that artist, or that source the credit that is due to them.